Welcome to Film on Tape, a free audio library for creatives in film and television. My name is Misha Calvert, and I've worked as an actor, writer, director, and producer for many decades. I had so many questions when I was first getting started in New York, and I just wanted fast, free answers. That is what this library is for. The work that you do as a creative is so important. I really hope that this library is going to help get your work out there. Film on Tape is sponsored by Vermilion, a coaching and educational company for creatives. You can learn more at clubvermilion.com. Agents, managers, and representatives. It's one of the top questions that I get asked. And honestly, I thought I would just do a podcast to clear up agents, managers, and representatives so that when people ask me, I can just send them this episode. Because to be honest, I kind of get sick of talking about them. They're not the magic pill. And I feel so bad for actors who come out of conservatory training programs and they're indoctrinated with this idea that all they have to do to have a successful career as an actor is come out of this program, have a perfect showcase, get seen by the right agent or manager, and then get signed, and that's it. You're a star. Couldn't be further from the truth. And I know, like, from when I was in conservatory, I had one single meeting from my showcase. It was not an agent or a manager. It was a artistic director of a theater. And we just had this wonderful conversation about how that model, and that was a long time ago, but the model of coming out of conservatory and then getting signed by a rep and hoping that's going to solve all your problems, how whack that model is. And this guy was like right there with me saying how whack that model is. So I'm going to go through a lot of things to think about, a lot of reframes on the idea of agents, managers, and reps, and I will take you through how to get one. Okay, look, let's make a deal right here. If I give you this information, I need you to not put everything on getting a rep. Can you make that deal with me? Okay, good. I saw you nod your head. So we're going to go through this just so that you have the information, but we both know, you and me, we both agree that this is not going to be the magic bullet and that you are actually the person who's, to be honest, way more important than your rep. You are the person that matters. That being said, let's talk about reps. So reps is going to include agents, managers, lawyers, publicists, sales agents, if you're a visual artist, galleries, right? Anyone who is representing you as an artist and is trying to get you paid, get you out to market, right? Doing deals for you, etc. I'm going to focus mostly on agents and managers, but just know that when I talk about reps, it could include any of the kinds of rep that I just mentioned as well. Like most of this is going to cross straight over to those categories too. So part of a successful relationship with a rep is going to require you understanding that these people work for you. So many artists that I talk to act like they work for their rep. Worse yet, like they intern for their rep. Like that's the energy of like too many apologies, like groveling, desperate, afraid to bring things up. I'm not saying interns are like that because the best interns, aka my interns, we act like collaborators, like equals. And yet so many friends of mine, clients of mine, they're really scared to talk to their reps and it creates a bad vibe. So you got to know that actually it's the opposite. Your rep is working for you. And how does that transpire? Well, they can either charge you a flat rate, an hourly rate, or commission, anywhere from 5% if you're a lawyer to 15 to 20% if you're a manager. So yeah, you are basically paying them to do work for you. Now, because it's a business, if you want to get a representative to work with you, you're going to have to make them believe that they can make money from this relationship, both in the short term and the long term. Duh. They are running a business. No shade. Like they're running a business and so are you. So in case you needed a reminder, here's your reminder. If you want to be paid for your art, you're running a business. So they want to know that this relationship is going to be financially fruitful to them, either now or in the near future, or maybe in the distant future if they're prospecting for, long-term development. But either way, you're going to have to demonstrate that value. So we're going to actually talk about that in part 2 of this, but just know that that's definitely there. So nevertheless, you got to never forget that you are paying them. You are paying them to do a service for you. You are the customer and they're the service provider. Also, never forget that with a little bit of training, you could probably do what they do. It's doubtful that they could do what you do. Now, don't send this to your rep and be like, Misha's talking shit about you, because I kind of am. And you'll see a lot of agents and managers, they're frustrated actors, or they've given up on directing or, producing, whatever. But in my job, it's not that dissimilar to being a manager in some ways. And so I have kind of a unique perspective on this. And really, I do believe that artists, because they usually default to low confidence in these settings, you must remind yourself that they probably can't do what you're doing, and that what you're doing is very hard, and that you are very special. You're special. You're an artist. So just bear that in mind. Now, in my experience of agents and managers, and I've had some over the years, I still have a lawyer who's fantastic. And by the way, he can do what I do because he's also a producer on Broadway. So there are exceptions. But I would say that 70% of the reps that I have met are driven by money. Maybe 20% are driven by future money, meaning they know that the person they've just signed is not going to bring in money in the short term, but they see that long term this person is amazing. And they're taking kind of a gamble on this person, knowing that it's like a Roth IRA, 401k, right? Over time, this person's going to be very valuable. And then 10% of reps are driven by something else. That could be just a pure love of the art, knowing that they're not going to make any money off this, or a personal reason. The client is like a friend of the family or something. Once had a friend of mine marry his manager, which I don't really recommend, or some other reason that we don't understand. Yeah. But again, that's a full 90% who are driven by money in either the short or the long term. Again, no shade. They're running a business. Absolutely understandable. We're going to talk now about whether or not you need a rep. And this is really interesting because I find that most actors who are wanting an agent or a manager, they're actually not driven by money in this desire. Getting ahead of myself. So let's talk about the model that agents and managers use. Their whole business model is to work with people who are already getting work. Let me say that again. The model of agents and managers is to represent people who, by and large, are already working. Now, what does this mean? This means that, for the most part, they're there to manage your career, not launch it. Case in point, I was speaking about why that model of coming out of conservatory, doing your showcase and signing is whack. Because most people who are coming out of a showcase, not all, but most, aren't working a lot at that time, not only because they've been in school for 2 to 4 years, but because they haven't established themselves in the business yet. So that goes against the fundamental business model of most agents and managers, which is to sign clients who are already working. Why? Because it takes extra push, it takes extra energy and time to generate momentum for somebody who's starting from zero. That's like its own special category. And it takes like 3 to 5 times as much energy to launch somebody as it does to manage somebody who's already got momentum or is moving themselves forward. So if you're not already getting work, in my opinion, you're not ready for a rep. And that is literally counterintuitive to what these conservatory training programs instill in you. But I see it. I mean, it's right there. And when you think about it logically, it's right there. So really, you're going to be ready for a rep if you're working so much that you don't feel like you need one. And why is that? Because then, no matter what happens with that rep, whether they're nice, not nice, good at their job, not good at their job, you're going to continue working. You're still going to be able to get roles because how? Because you've already taught yourself, or if you're a Vermilion client, I've shown you how to get acting roles without a rep. I am so excited to tell you that I'm launching a brand new slate of classes that are incredibly helpful on my website. Some of the classes include on-camera acting technique and how to self-produce your own film, actor self-care, which is something that nobody talks about, and how to write a feature film in 10 days, which I'm going to teach you how I did it and how you can do it too. And believe me when I say I poured my heart into these courses. Go to clubvermilion.com. I am so excited about this website. I can't wait to work with you. And then what they bring in is they heighten your opportunities. They improve the quality of the auditions that you're already getting. But that's the other thing too. Like if you're not confident and able to go into an audition and knock it out of the park and feel really good about it, you're also not ready for a rep because their whole job is to send you into bigger rooms than the ones you're getting into. And if you're nervous going into an audition, they don't want that. You're going to make them look bad. You're not going to book it. So you really want to be pretty comfortable auditioning several times a week. And like your nerves aren't going to get the better of you. And you could be getting jobs yourself, which creates confidence, which creates leverage. And then that's a good time to start having meetings with reps because they're just going to improve the quality of the kinds of auditions and experiences that you're already getting. It also makes you market proof. And a lot of agents and managers, they'll pull back on their efforts if the market is like underperforming or whatever, or like sometimes they can seem a bit helpless. Like, well, it's just slow right now. Oh, I don't know. It's slow. It's not you. It's not me. It's slow. Well, I don't like that. It's not slow everywhere. The world is wide. So if you can figure out how to get work no matter what market, you can be multi-market. You can use biggest market arguably in the world, social media, with billions of audience members in dozens and dozens of countries, then it's not going to matter what the rest of the local market is doing. You're going to be able to stay working. So I just like you to get used to the idea of working hard and smart and not relying on your rep so that when they do come in, it just improves the quality of what's going on and gets you better and better opportunities. It's a bit like when you're single. I'm single, by the way. When you're single and you're like, oh, God, I really want a relationship. And nothing ever comes in when you're like that, right? Because it's like, no, you got to figure out how to live happily and like get a life, talking to myself, get a life that you love, build a life that you love, and be totally okay without that partner. And then when you feel happy and complete, that's when, and you're like, I don't even need anybody. I don't want anybody right now. I'm just going to go like eat dinner by myself. And that's when you meet someone really cute at the restaurant and you're like, oh my God, I didn't expect to meet somebody. And then it's a beautiful happily ever after. So imagine that dumb little story that I just told. Apply it to agents and managers. When you don't need one, that's when you want one. Okay, so back to what drives people in this scenario. So like I said, 90% of them, in my experience, no shade, they're driven by money. I find that most actors, when they're in pursuit of a rep, are driven by a need for validation. They're not even front of mind trying to expand their opportunities to get paid or to expand and strengthen their career. I think, and this is kind of edgy, but they think that they are. But many of them just feel like without an agent or a manager, they're not, quote, a real actor. Or if their agent manager sucks, it's like a ding to their confidence. And I really want to try to divorce those two ideas, that you are an artist and you are an actor when you deliver your product to an audience. in this setting, right? When you create something and you deliver it to an audience, that is when, in my opinion, you're a professional artist. And that can happen whether you have an agent or not, whether you have a manager or not. So I think if you can start to shift your focus on not whether you have a representative or not, but take responsibility for what you want to say and how you are reaching people with what you want to say, and not shifting the responsibility to somebody else to get you that exposure. It's really not anyone else's problem but your own. And the more quickly you can put yourself in the seat of responsibility for what are you making, what do you want to say, and how are you reaching people with what you want to say, the sooner that representative is going to come in. All right, we've talked about motivations for agents and managers and reps. We've talked about your motivations. We've talked about whether or not you need a rep at this time, whether it's the best thing for you. Let's talk about what turns reps off, because they may be driven mostly by money, but they can still say no for reasons that are non-monetary. Here's why. Money doesn't matter if you are costing them too much time or energy. They say time is money, so it kind of evens out to the same thing. If you as a client are taking up too much time or giving them a headache, giving them a hassle, you might get dropped, or they might not want to sign you at all. So the top 3 reasons that I see people get dropped. Number 1, you're not bringing in enough money. Number 2, you're unpleasant, needy, time-intensive, problematic, or they just personally dislike you. And number 3, there's some sort of scandal or criminal offense. Armie Hammer, right? Now, is Armie Hammer not an artist because his agents all dropped him? No, he's still a very good actor. He just had a bit of a tough time there with some bad behavior. I'm understating for the record. But scandal and criminal offense is another reason that I see actors on the big stage and in smaller arenas get dropped. So you want to just make sure that you are nice to work with. Just be nice. Don't be a nightmare. Treat them the same way that you would want to be treated. And as long as you're relatively professional and kind, this should not be a problem. Most artists I know, this is not a problem. Now, as we wrap up here, I want to highlight a point that I made already, which is that if you're not ready to hold up your end of the bargain as an artist, you're not ready to push forward with reps. And that could either be getting your first rep or jumping to a better rep. Like, I know a lot of actors, maybe they're freelancing with somebody and they're like, oh, I think I need a better agent. Well, if you're not holding up your end of the bargain, I don't know that it's going to be successful for you to try and get somebody else to represent you. What do I mean by bargain? So if you're established, your end of the bargain is doing everything that you need to do in order to remain established. And that takes a lot of work. You got to maintain your brand. Public appearances, photo shoots, press, networking. There's a lot that goes into maintaining an established brand. And to not be a nightmare. Who is Jonathan Majors? Just saw him in the press again. Again, scandal or criminal offense. He had everything going for him. Yale School of Drama, incredible actor, multiple picture deals. He behaved badly and was a nightmare. I also know people who've personally worked with him, and he was a nightmare. So your end of the bargain is to not be a nightmare and to continue to maintain your brand, right? Now, if you're not established, your end of the bargain with reps is that you need to be working the triangle. What's the triangle? I talk all about it in the episode on top 3 ways to book work as an actor without an agent or manager. Self-submitting, CD push, and networking. Now, if you're not established, you have to give your rep something to pitch. You have to give them some momentum because they should be pitching you, right? If you're new to these offices, like these offices have never seen your name before because you're not established, then that means your rep should be pitching you, making verbal or written pitches, like on the phone, making sure that they're convincing these casting offices to bring you in for the first time. You have to give them something to work with. Show that's just come out, film that's just premiered. You've been in class with the casting director that they're calling, etc. So you have to hold up your end of the bargain. This industry is too big to do no work and expect results. Doesn't matter how attractive you are. The industry is also too small to work your ass off and be very good at what you do and not see results. So it's really very simple. Most people just don't want to do the work. They don't want to work to grow their business as an artist. And so if you can do it, you will be miles ahead. And final point is with reps, you really want to treat them like a business equal. Treat them like a collaborator. They're not any more and they're not any less. I wish you luck with your representatives should you choose to have one or keep one. And I love my lawyer. Actually, this is a real closing note. I freaking love my lawyer so much. He's so great. He does great work for me. We have a wonderful relationship. But guess what? He doesn't hear from me very often. And I almost never hear from him until it's time for another one of his office parties. We have a great, mature, respectful relationship. And I intend to keep it that way for many years. This has been such a joy talking to you about this. I'm going to tell you how you can pitch yourself to representatives next time. So I'll see you then. Thank you so much for listening to Film on Tape. If you like the way that I approach the industry, check out our other classes, consulting, and mentorship at clubvermilion.com. Vermilion is a home for artists and those looking to expand creatively. Whether you're an actor, a film professional, an entrepreneur, or a CEO, we'll help you find your voice and hone your skills to thrive in any market at any scale. You can schedule a free phone consultation at clubvermilion.com.